Hey everybody, this is Anthony with VR Game Rankings, and this, of course, is the daily vlog series. It is Thursday, January 18th, and first off, I want to apologize for this episode coming so late. Had a number of appointments today, delayed me considerably. I almost thought about actually not even doing today's episode and just skipping it and going to Friday's episode, but I thought, nah, you know what? I can still bang out an episode real quick. So this episode might seem a little bit different, and if it does, it's just because the recording times are different. Everything's just a little bit different. But anyway, let's just go ahead and jump right into it. Okay, so the first story that I have for you guys today is about Oculus Story Studio. Okay, so this is something that just broke relatively recently. I saw articles on Road to VR. I saw articles on Upload VR about this story. And basically, the Oculus Story Studio, the studio that was responsible for Henry and Lost and Dear Angelica, and a lot of the really cool non-gaming VR experiences that Oculus has brought to the table. This studio, the Oculus Story Studio, obviously they were disbanded. They were closed down. This was last year. But then not too long ago, we heard that they still had another project, that they had a project called Wolves in the Walls, and that this would basically be the final project from Oculus Story Studios, and that we would get it sometime this year, and that it was going to premiere at the Sundance Film Festival, which actually I think begins tomorrow. And so now we got some more information today that kind of clarifies this whole situation. So here's the deal. Oculus Story Studio is no more. Apparently, Wolves in the Walls is going to be a 3-chapter production, and the very first chapter is actually being brought to us by Fable Studio. Now, what is Fable Studio? Well, Fable Studio is basically a collection of alumni from Oculus Story Studios. Many of the people that worked with Oculus Story Studios on Henry, Lost, Dear Angelica, and all of those projects, many of those people have come over and now they are working for Fable Studio, an independent company. Now, what they've said here is that Oculus Story Studio was about making VR movies, and that Fable Studio is different. It's a technology company that is more about creating interactive characters, breathing, living, interactive characters that you're going to participate with in VR and possibly AR as well. So it's kind of a future-looking company. They're looking towards the future of this idea of creating these interactive characters that we will participate with, that we will interact with in a unique way. And Wolves in the Walls is the very first iteration of this, basically. So Wolves in the Walls, the first project they're doing is Chapter 1, and this is going to premiere at the Sundance New Frontiers tomorrow on January 19th. I'm recording this on January 18th. By the time many of you guys see this, though, it will be January 19th, and they should be premiering Chapter 1 of Wolves in the Walls at this New Frontiers part of Sundance. And so this project is a VR adaptation of Neil Gaiman's book, The Wolves in the Walls, and the production is going to span 3 chapters. We're going to get the first chapter. I don't know when this is actually going to hit Oculus Store, by the way, but the first chapter is going to be at Sundance New Frontiers. And basically what this studio has decided to do is they wanted to try to figure out, okay, how are we going to do this where we can charge legitimate money for these type of features, and we can create a market for this, and we can create a sustainable market where the pricing is right, the value proposition is right, and they can make enough money off of this thing so they can continue to do additional future projects. I've talked about this a number of times when it comes to non-games, when it comes to all these different interactive experiences that we're being blessed with in the VR industry right now. I've said, look, we're being showered upon with a lot of really good, interesting features that a lot of companies are bringing to the table. Senza Peso is one that comes to mind by Kite and Lightning. Just lots of good stuff out there that you can experience that is 100% free. And I've said it before, eventually we got to figure out a way to monetize this, but we have to figure out a way to monetize it in such a way where it makes sense for the end consumer. And hopefully the end consumer steps up and actually puts some money where their mouth is and starts backing some of this stuff. And so, Fable Studio, what they plan to do is they are going to have a pricing idea behind all of this content. So as far as I know, Wolves in the Walls will be, we will have to pay money for this. This is not going to be free. I don't believe, now I'm still a little bit unclear about Chapter 1, if Oculus has anything to do with it. Maybe Chapter 1 might be free, and then from that point on, any other future chapters and any other projects that Fable Studio is doing might cost money, or maybe Chapter 1 is going to cost money as well. I'm not sure about this. All of this is kind of breaking right now. I've tried to read a lot of this, but don't have all the details quite yet. But basically their idea is they want to charge $1 per 10 minutes of content. Okay, so if they create a 10-minute segment of content, they charge $1 for that. If it's a 20-minute segment, it's $2. If it's a 30-minute segment, it's $3, etc., etc., etc. So that's kind of the idea here in terms of trying to monetize this and trying to make it a viable option going forward so that it's sustainable, so that they can continue to make this kind of entertainment. And for us in-level consumers, they want to price it in such a way where we feel like we're getting a good value for our money and that everything kind of makes sense with this. So that's what's going on here. And the interesting thing about Fable Studio is in their philosophy. So like they said, they're not trying to make VR movies. That's kind of what Oculus Story Studio is trying to do, is how do we make a VR movie? And they made Henry, and they made Lost, and then they made Dear Angelica. And Fable Studio, they have kind of a different take. They're trying to make these interactive characters. And I kind of go back to, do you guys remember Project Milo? This is way back with the Xbox, and when Kinect was first being talked about on the Xbox, and you had Lionhead Studios with Peter Molyneux, and they had this boy Milo, and the idea was they were going to create this interactive character that could kind of look at you, see you move around. It could ask you to do things. You had to write something down, and then you held it up to the camera and you showed the character. Kind of this interactive thing, right, between an individual character and then the player participant. And it appears that is exactly what Fable Studio is going for. And their very first production is Wolves in the Walls. And Wolves in the Walls features this character, Lucy, who is going to interact with you. And she's going to recognize you. She's going to react to you and make suggestions to you. And you're going to kind of have this interplay back and forth with Lucy in the very first chapter of Wolves in the Walls. So it's really interesting. They've got 4 other projects in development as well that will be coming sometime longer in the future. Many of these projects have been designed with Quill, using Quill to actually create these products, similar to Dear Angelica, which I believe was created entirely in Quill with music and stuff added on as well. And so they have 4 projects in development: Origin, 10, Derailed, and Magic River Yacht Club. So this is some exciting stuff, because I tell you what, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I think some of the non-VR experiences that we have in VR is some of the most powerful stuff that we have. The non-gaming is what I'm saying. Non-gaming experiences that we have in VR. I've raved about Dispatch. I've talked about Blade Runner Memory Lab 2049. We've talked about Henry. We've talked about Lost. There's just lots of good stuff. Mayubi was very good as well. Lots of good non-gaming stuff that's out there, and we have to figure out a way to make this content viable so that these creators can get paid for their work and that the in-level consumer feels like they're getting a good value. So hopefully that's what we're going to get here. I'm very much looking forward to Wolves in the Walls. I'm looking forward to this, and it's pretty exciting, definitely interesting. Okay, so story number 2, we're going to jump to something in a complete opposite direction, and this is Jumanji, the VR experience, which has taken Steam by storm. Yeah, well, it's kind of taken the Vive subreddit by storm, and this has kind of become this hilarious thing. So apparently yesterday on Steam, Jumanji, the VR adventure showed up. And this is official VR experience by Sony Pictures Virtual Reality, and they are being assisted on this project with Madison Wells Media Immersive. And so this app went live yesterday. It was live for a period of time. Then it got pulled, and now it's back live again. So the thing is, this is a game. Okay, it's $5. But a lot of people, there's a lot of jokes being made. It just looks like a very amateur level kind of affair is what we got going on here. I mean, just bad collision detection is going on. Just lots of weird issues in this game. And so we've had some Twitch streamers that have played this and had some hilarity ensue from it. And basically, it's like a third-person perspective game, kind of from a godlike perspective. And you have like these god hands that enter into the world. And what you're doing is you're kind of playing around with action figures almost, where the main character, one of the main characters in the new Jumanji movie is Dr. Bravestone, who's played by The Rock in the movie. And so you actually pick up Dr. Bravestone and you kind of move him around, or you grab a tree, you pull a tree out, you lay it across a chasm so that Dr. Bravestone could walk across this tree to get to the other side. And so basically you're trying to find ways to help your adventurers deal with various obstacles in the game. So, I mean, that's what the game is all about. Now, it's only $5, but it's really gotten a lot of publicity, not for anything good about it, for basically how terrible and how incredibly awful the game is. One of the Twitch streamers was saying that your face will literally clip through terrain at certain points, and it's not a good feel. It really can cause some serious motion sickness. And it's kind of interesting that Sony Pictures Virtual Reality is backing this. I believe they did that Ghostbusters game. Ghostbusters Now Hiring, which I think is on PlayStation VR. I'm not sure if it's made it to any of the other platforms. I think it hit Oculus actually as well. They did that Ghostbusters thing. They also did a Spider-Man thing, which was free, a Spider-Man experience. That one wasn't too bad. But it's just kind of weird that Sony, they're backers of the PlayStation VR. They have all these really talented teams, but Sony Pictures Virtual Reality, this separate company, obviously doesn't seem to have access to any of this talent because none of their games have really shown that off. So anyway, that is Jumanji, the VR experience. It is definitely providing some hilarity for a lot of Twitch streamers, a lot of YouTubers doing Let's Plays. And it's kind of one of these things where we need games like this every now and then, where it's just a complete farce and you can just like poke fun at the game and just have lots of hilarity ensue off of that and just that type of thing. So that's kind of what Jumanji has turned out to be for the VR gaming industry at this point. Okay, the next story I have for you is Exorcist Legion VR. The third chapter is going to be launching next Thursday. Now, We already have the Exorcist Legion VR. We have the first 2 chapters of that available. And this is this episodic content delivery system where you basically pay $5 for each of these chapters, and additional chapters come down the line. And basically each of these chapters provide about 20 minutes of gameplay, depending on how long it takes you to get through that. Now, I went ahead and played through First Rites, which is the very first chapter, and I found it to be pretty damn good. It was pretty good. I have not played the second chapter. However, one of my good buddies, Main Fan, who oftentimes will comment on some of these videos, he did play the second chapter and thought that it was kind of disappointing. So he wasn't a big fan of the second chapter. I've also heard some other people not exactly in love with the second chapter, but this is the third chapter. It is called Skin Deep. It will come out next Thursday for $5, and it will last around 20 minutes or so. And the storyline for this chapter is not very pleasant. It actually deals with a wave of infant mortality where parents claim they hear the sound of an old woman soothing their upset children, and then when they go to find out like what the hell is going on, their child is dead. I mean, it's pretty hardcore right there, right? Not exactly sunshine and rainbows as far as that is concerned, but this is The Exorcist. You know, this is not friendly, happy stuff. This is some real scary, tragic type stuff. And so that is your assignment. You're kind of like working for the police department. You're like an investigator, homicide detective, and you have to figure out what's going on here. So that is chapter 3. So look forward to that next Thursday. Another quick little story I have is Farpoint for PlayStation VR. You know how there is the Farpoint bundle with the game and the PlayStation VR aim controller? Well, there is a deal. You can get the Farpoint aim controller bundle from Target for $59.99. So if you've been late to the party, if you're a PlayStation VR owner, if you've never picked up Farpoint and you'd like to jump in on it now, you can go ahead and grab it. And for the price of a regularly priced video game, you get the game Farpoint and you get the gun. Not a bad deal at all. $60 for this Farpoint aim controller available at Target. There's also a Newegg deal. Some people are reporting you can get it for $52 if you use a special code, but I was reading about it and some people were like, the code worked for me, the code didn't work for me. So maybe just do a Google search on Newegg Farpoint bundle for $52 and you could probably find that code and see if it works out for you. Okay, another deal that I saw is Skyrim VR is $39.99 at GameStop. Now, we've seen this happen a couple of times. Skyrim VR, when it first was released, normal $59.99 game. This is a primetime game, $59.99. It was that price for quite a while, but then as we got later in the month of December, the price went on sale. It dropped down to $39.99. It was available on Amazon and GameStop and a number of places for $39.99. Well, it was at that price for a little while and then it went back to its normal price. Well, now it's back down to $39. So if you have not picked up Skyrim VR for your PlayStation VR and you have a GameStop nearby, you might want to give them a call. Maybe they have a copy of the game. You could pick it up for $39.99. Not a bad deal. Another quick little story to get into is From Other Suns. We talked last weekend about how Raw Data, we talked last week that Raw Data was going to have a free weekend. And I kind of talked about how I didn't really like Raw Data as much on the Oculus Rift for some reason. Loved it on the Vive, even kind of like it on PSVR. Didn't fall in love with the Rift version, but they did have that free weekend last week that was definitely good. And so this weekend, it's From Other Suns. So if you might have heard me talk about From Other Suns on one of these earlier episodes. I've been playing From Other Suns a little bit more frequently lately, and I've been having a wonderful time in the game with a lot of great camaraderie with the people I'm playing with, a lot of cool people. Haven't encountered any griefers or anything like that. So if you're kind of curious to how everything is working out as far as From Other Suns is concerned, you can go ahead and jump into that game for free this weekend. I believe this starts technically this starts today at 10 p.m. Pacific time, Thursday evening. So if you're on the West Coast, you can go ahead and actually jump in here later this evening. So From Other Suns is actually going to kick off later today. If you're East Coast, obviously, you could probably try that tomorrow and play it throughout the entire weekend. So you can get a good chance to get some game time in it. And I highly encourage you, if you do go into From Other Suns, go ahead and try the multiplayer. Don't fear the multiplayer, because I've been paired up with a lot of really cool people. I'll try to get into this on the weekend a couple of times myself. So if you happen to see VR game rankings, that will actually be me. I will be in there. So I'll try to get in there. Maybe I'll happen to bump into a couple of you guys during the free weekend. So basically, that's pretty much all I have for this show. So that's going to go ahead and wrap it up. A little bit of a shorter show today. This has been episode 79 of the Daily Vlog series for Thursday, January 18th. Once again, apologies for how late this show is hitting. It's almost like it's Friday show, really, almost. But anyway, that's just the way it is. I had a number of appointments today, had to deal with it. Sometimes real life does unfortunately get in the way, but I still wanted to bang out a quick little show here just for the hell of it. And of course, I will see everybody tomorrow on Friday. So have a wonderful Thursday. See you guys tomorrow. Take it easy. Later.